Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review. And today we're checking out another mod by Pig, and that's going to be the Stealth Pack, a pack of 3 weapons dedicated to the purposes of stealth. Now, these weapons aren't necessarily integrally suppressed or anything like that, but they are very much intended for a stealth style of play, as they do have very low damage and very easy to find ammo types. So you can use them in bigger combat scenarios, though in my experience and testing, it is definitely much better to stay in the shadows with these weapons. Pig calls these mid-tier weapons. I would maybe stretch that to early to mid-game level weapons, but regardless, there are some pretty cool options and features in this mod that make it pretty unique. Each of these weapons is in fact added to the leveled list, so you will be able to find it out in the world on enemies after level 10, and this definitely works. I started finding some of these almost immediately after installing the mod. In case you haven't used one of Pig's mods before, all of these assets are nif-bashed for the most part. Some of them are custom. He has borrowed some assets from other modders, but for the most part, these are going to be vanilla assets and will pick up whatever textures you throw on them. So for today's video, I am using Gmoy's retexture of the pipe weapons, and so it looks a bit different than it may look in your load order when you download this mod. Let's go ahead and check out each of these individual weapons, talk about their features and how they perform in-game. For starters, here we have the Scrap Handgun. Now, this weapon doesn't immediately scream stealth pack, but it does have a couple of suppressor options that definitely help it fit that bill. But when you first get this thing, it's probably just going to be a scrappy junk handgun made of various parts and pieces of scrap just kind of left around. This thing has a base damage of 18 using 38 caliber rounds, has a fire rate of 63, a range of 83, an accuracy of 61, a weight of 2.8 pounds, and a value of 127 caps. When it comes to actually using this weapon, it's just your typical old pistol, though it does have some nice features like rechambers and the ability to fire it in full auto. When it comes to sight pictures, it's pretty nice with no suppressor, but when you throw one on, you're probably going to want to use something like a reflex sight because your sight picture is going to get a little bit cluttered. For animations, this thing does use the vanilla deliver animations, but they look pretty nice and will pick up any custom animations that you download on top of this, but I'll go ahead and show the vanilla ones off now so you can see how the slide racks and all that. Not too bad. As far as vanilla animations go, the deliver is a nice, safe choice, and it works pretty well. In terms of accuracy, this fires exactly like you would expect, and hits pretty much everything you point at. You might have some trouble with further away targets, like we missed that first one even though I was pointing right at it, but that's bound to happen when you're using a pistol made out of pure scrap metal. For the next weapon in this pack, we have what's known as the Scrap Submachine Gun, which is another submachine gun made entirely out of scrap. This thing performs very similar to the vanilla submachine gun, so there's not a lot that differentiates it, especially when it uses 45 caliber rounds. However, this one, again, is intended for more of a stealth focus, using suppressors and hiding in the shadows. It has a pretty small magazine size compared to the vanilla SMG, so it's honestly just down to aesthetics at that point, whichever one you prefer to use, and I do like the profile of this one a bit better. For damage, it has a base damage of 21, again, it uses those 45 caliber rounds, has a fire rate of 90 in fully automatic, a range of 107, an accuracy of 67, a weight of 12.4 pounds, which is pretty heavy for this little guy, and a value of 127 caps. Now, you can do some modification at the weapon's workbench to make this look a little bit more appealing than its base version, like some new stocks, sights, and suppressors and barrels, but this is how it's going to look with the basic attachment setup. In terms of in-game performance, I found this weapon to be the worst of the 3 in this pack. Not to say that it's inherently bad, but compared to the other 2, it just wasn't bringing a lot to the table. In terms of iron sights, the iron sights are pretty messy on this weapon. It is made out of nuts and bolts, as this is a scrap weapon, making it pretty hard to land shots at far range targets, but this is probably more intended for a close range use anyways. In terms of animations, this does use the vanilla combat rifle animations, meaning it will pick up any replacers you download. For today's video, I am using War Daddy's replacer for the combat rifle animations, and they look really, really nice on this weapon. In terms of design, I do actually really like the bolt on this weapon being made of a little drawer handle. Pretty cool. In terms of accuracy, this performs decently. Again, pretty hard to land shots with those iron sights, but you can definitely hit targets at mid to close ranges, so it's going to perform pretty much as well as you need it to, but you can always rely on VATS if necessary. And for our last weapon in this pack, we have what's known as the makeshift air rifle, and this is by far my favorite weapon included in this pack. This is going to be an air-powered rifle that uses ball bearings as ammunition, and I really like the design of this one. It looks very plausible and very Fallout. This thing has a base damage of 20, again using ball bearings as its ammunition, has a fire rate of 100, a range of 71, an accuracy of 66, a weight of 8 pounds, and a value of 69 caps. And it is very customizable at the weapons workbench, including some pretty wacky parts like a sort of Gauss barrel that you can throw on, which is pretty crazy. In-game, this weapon performs excellent as a mid to long-range stealthy option, though I definitely prefer running it with a scope for those longer ranges, and this definitely works as a stealthy rifle as it is integrally suppressed since it is air-powered. Again, this thing uses ball bearings as ammunition, and for its reload animation, it actually uses the laser rifle reload animation, which is pretty interesting. Honestly, it works really well, and it's a clever use of the reload animation from the laser rifle. And until recently, there haven't been any laser rifle reload animation replacers, but now that there is one that just came out this week, I do have to say that it doesn't work super well on this rifle as it was not intended for it. So if you download that, it may look a little bit weird on this weapon. In terms of accuracy, this weapon works great. Of course, if you throw on a scope, you're going to be landing pretty much every shot that you shoot downrange. Although, that last guy seems to be giving me issues today. A lot of issues. Huh. Weird. When it comes to attachments, we actually have a good bit of variety for each of these weapons, and we have 3 weapons to get through, so let's try to run through these pretty quick. Starting with the handgun, we actually do have slide options. For each slide, there are 3 different versions, the regular, hardened, and powerful, which will increase damage, and then there are different slide types as well that will change the cosmetics. For the light slide, we have this nice design here that's pretty open, and then for the calibrated slide, we have almost a Beretta style with the profile there, which is pretty nice. And then the heavy slide, giving you the most damage, is going to be a full cover, kind of similar to a sort of scrap-made block, almost. For barrels, we have the short barrel, ported barrel, and extended barrel. For the frame, we have the standard frame, the comfort frame, and the sharpshooter's frame. For the magazines, we have the double stack 38, the single stack 45, the extended double stack 38, and the single stack 45 extended as well. And then for sights, we have the standard iron sights, glow sights, and a reflex sight, of course. For muzzles, we have the no muzzle option, a compensator, and then 2 different suppressors. We have the makeshift suppressor here made out of a turpentine bottle, and then a regular suppressor, which is actually a repurposed assault rifle barrel, but has been remeshed a little to look like a pretty interesting, almost Osprey suppressor, but round. It's kind of goofy looking, but it's definitely very unique. And then finally, we have the option to choose our different firing modes. We have semi-auto and rapid semi-auto, and then full auto and rapid full auto, each of which will give you more fire rate but less damage. So you can balance this weapon to be exactly what you want it to be. For the submachine gun, we have your standard set of receivers that you'd expect with any weapon like this. A regular automatic up through powerful automatic, and then the addition of a rapid automatic, which will not change the damage, but it will give you more fire rate. For the barrels, we have short and ported. For the stocks, we have the short stock, full stock, and the recoil compensating stock, which has a little AK underfolder there. We have the standard magazine, medium magazine, and drum magazine there. And then we have, for sights, the standard iron sights and a scavenged reflex sight, which is actually an OKP7, which is a bit odd on this weapon, but hey, it's there as an option. And for muzzles, we have the no muzzle option and the suppressor option. Again, this is intended for stealth, so there are no compensators or muzzle brakes to make this easier to use in full-out combat. This is intended to be used, again, stealthy in the shadows, stuff like that. And then for my favorite weapon from this pack, the makeshift air rifle, we have our standard set of receivers here. We have standard, improved, airtight, and pressurized, which are just basic damage increases. You could imagine this as your standard, hardened, powerful, and advanced. Pretty much is the same thing, except they're actually going to improve the fire rates as well, which is pretty interesting. For the barrels, we have the short barrel, long barrel, and then the accelerator barrel, which is going to add an increased damage and additional energy damage, which I'm not sure where it's getting that from. I thought this was sort of like a railgun setup where the magnets and the coils would send it further, faster, but there's energy damage here as well. So, hey, whatever. For stocks, we have the standard full stock, the high pressure stock with a nice little tube or canister of air there, and then the marksman stock as well, which has a little pouch for you on the side. And then for sights, we have the standard iron sights, a reflex sight, a short scope, medium scope, and a long scope. Now then, it is of course time for our damage test. Now typically we test out the weakest version of the weapon compared to the strongest version, but I wanted to give each of these weapons a fighting chance since again they are intended for stealth use and have really low damage. So I fully upgraded all of these, and since we have a variety of weapons, I just wanted to make this as quick and easy as possible. So for starters, let's check out the scrap handgun with the best sort of attachments that I could come up with to give this the best fighting chance against a Deathclaw. Let's see how it performs with the best attachments but no perks. So this is just the weapon doing its best. And not too bad, honestly. If all of those landed on the weak point, that would have been about 24 shots, but we'd put down the Deathclaw in 27. Still pretty good. Only 2 reloads if you were landing all precision, but that's going to be hard to do in actual combat. So probably around 3 magazines to put down a Deathclaw with a fully upgraded version of this weapon. Even less if you take on something like the Commando perk, since this is in full auto. Now then, let's check out the SMG and see how it performs. Again, fully upgraded, aiming for the Deathclaw's weak point. And this thing didn't do too shabby. Having the drum mag definitely helped. We put him down at about 30 shots. And similar to the pistol, it does pretty well. But it has a much slower fire rate. So you might actually be able to take down a Deathclaw even quicker with the handgun. Now then, let's try a fully upgraded version of that airgun with the Gauss barrel attachment and see how it performs. This is probably going to do a whole lot more damage than the other two. Of course, that rifleman perk kicking in and knocking him over, or sniper perk, whichever one does that. Let's go ahead and let him get back up and take a couple more well-aimed shots. Well, since the ammo counter is broken on this weapon, I think that was around 6 or so shots. But if you're in stealth, you'll probably do it in less, especially if you can land hits better than I can. But yeah, these weapons actually perform pretty decent. I was worried they wouldn't stack up against the Deathclaw, but they all held their own pretty well. So yeah, guys, that is the Stealth Pack by Pig. A nice little weapon pack that adds 3 brand new scrappy weapons into the game. Interesting to be called a Stealth Pack since any of these could be used outside of stealth, and really this is more of a scrap pack, but hey, he named it how he named it. Regardless, if you want some cool, lore-friendly handmade weapons in your game, I'd highly recommend picking this one up. This mod could definitely use a little bit of polish, but beyond that, there's some pretty cool functional weapons in here. This mod is available for both PC and Xbox, and if you want to try it for yourself, it will be linked down in the description below. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating. Consider subscribing if you haven't already for more videos just like this. Big shout out to all my patrons for supporting every single video. And a very special thanks to Astro, Captain Chaos, Helljumper 2077, Indecisive Wolf, Jackie Noid, Moonlit Gamer Feed, and Youth RC for signing up for that Tier 3 Patreon membership. If you want to check out Patreon, it will be linked down in the description below, but it is completely optional. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!